on our very, very tech-savvy channels is a waste of time and money. So if you think you can put a banner on Facebook and expect somebody to buy because of that, it's very different. Culturally, I think the route that the big channels have taken, when I say big channels, I'm talking about Flipkart and to an extent Amazon, they've gone with a lot of regional programming. And some of my, I do work with a lot of startups in a non-official capacity, and one of the things they told me was very fascinating. The mindset in a tier 2 or a tier 3 is, if they see it on a regional TV channel, it must be true. So in Tamil Nadu, for example, if you go to Madurai or go to one of the smaller towns and you see it on Sun TV, it must be true. So if Sun TV tells you that Flipkart is the cheapest place to buy a handbag, it must be true. And that's what they're building on. So it has to be a lot of original content. There's no real easy marketing mantra for it, There are some national figures you can use. Like our own Prime Minister is obviously pushing his Digital India agenda. There's people like Amitabh Bachchan who can be used, but mostly you got to go deep down regional. And then even region by region, the influences change. It's a very fascinating game, and it's a very expensive game. And this year, I think the FMCG reports are out, and it seems the regional players are beating the hell out of the MNC players, which is very fascinating. Homegrown local brands are doing better than MNC brands. HUL is down. Their revenue is down.
Patanjali is up.
Patanjali is up. So that's a great idea of marketing.
Yeah, just two things that I want to add to that. One is that we all should realize that for the longest time there's been this imperialist attitude that we've adopted, big cities, big city marketers, all of us sitting in ivory towers, offices here in big city, and delivering to rural areas in tier 2 towns. So that's like they've adopted a completely economic imperialist model, saying, there's one set of services and products that I will use to service rural markets in tier 2 cities, and one for the metro. That used to happen for a long time. It's only now beginning to change. And so the crux of the solution lies in realizing that the guy who lives in Vizag or Guntur or in Guwahati has the same bloody aspirations as the guy who lives here, in Bangalore and Pune. Why not? So the same set of services now, with digital coming in, with online platforms and e-commerce coming in, one good thing about e-commerce is that these products and services are available to him also, to her also. A big thing, number one. Number two is, on the marketing part, I think contextualizing content, local context, multilingual content is going to take off. And the solution to getting into their hearts and wallets lies in that.
Yeah, and not as a moderator, but even if I could wear the hat of a panelist, the first book which I wrote with Dr. Kalam was called Target 3 Billion, and I want to add one more dimension. We are only looking at one-way movement of goods and services. There's also a great opportunity of goods and services moving from back into the metro. So village products using e-com, can village products go backward into urban areas? So Speed Post kind of moves the other way, makes another 1,000 crores. Yeah.
Tribal arts, artifacts, ethnic art, paintings. Exactly. This point that you mentioned, this is the market for that.
Absolutely.
So it's not being created in the metros. It's being created in the rural hinterland.
And India is the land where you have the maximum number of geographically,
dispersed.
The IPRs.
Yeah.
The IPRs on geography are very high in India, and Gujarat has kind of cracked that model in a big way. I mean, Uttar Pradesh is kind of the next big thing which may happen, given the kind of goods which are geographically taxed. That may also happen, and that kind of, because we have limited time, and we've kind of probably already exceeded it. But wonderful discussion. But I want to also put a common question, and I also ask the audience to participate in this. And this has nothing to do with e-com per se now. And we'll take a break from investments in e-com, and we'll talk about a very contentious issue, which is pre-basics versus net neutrality. And if somebody wants to explain it, Ganesh, would you like to just quickly explain, or anyone, Sumit, if you would like, or Venkateswaran, just for a half a minute, if you could just explain it a bit, so that everybody is at pace. I'm sure everybody already knows it, but just to get the perspectives correct. And then I want to hear from each one of you, not like an easy answer, I support this or that, but what is your opinion on this new trend? I mean, is it something which is healthy? Is it something which can improve access, or will work with the Prime Minister's digitally inclusive India, or does it affect net neutrality in a way that it distorts the market beyond repair? So Ganesh, would you like to explain a bit about it, and then we can
Yeah,
take
sure,
your
sure.
opinion, and then we can
So,
move this.
do all of you know about this? I'm sure. Just put up your hands, please. Net neutrality, free basics, you've all seen it, right? So there have been full page, half page ads running. There have been Facebook campaigns. and Mr.
Only one side
Zuckerberg-
of the ads are running.
Sorry? Only?
Only one side ads are running.
Yeah, only one side, correct.
Nobody's put an ad on. net
But Mr.
neutrality.
Zuckerberg has hugged Mr. Modi many times. So all this has been happening, right? So the crux of it, without getting into details of whatever, and that itself is murky, is that it is supposed to be, claimed to be, an entry model for the lot of so-called not-haves, the poorer sections of society, into the internet, into the digital world, which is where we reside most of the time, right? So it's an entry kind of way for them. It's supposed to ease the way for them into that, giving them access to certain services, certain channels, and not giving them access to others. And the stated plan is that they will, over a period of time, graduate from this very basic model to a deeper engagement model where they can opt for various services, the kind that we opt for, that we live with daily. That's the nub of what free basics is. So my opinion on this is that it's very akin to dumping, which used to exist earlier. Yeah, so you used to have, to the extent that we brought in anti-dumping duties, yeah, I think we need to bring something like this if it goes on like this. I'm quite clear about it because here again there is imperialism, there is this whole dumping philosophy at work, and my point is very simple. Srijan, you in the morning, one of your slides, you put out the share of how much people spend on internet digital access and data packs.
235 rupees.
So
on
data
average.
packs are bloody available for 250 rupees a month these days, right? That's quite cheap. My maid has a data pack. An auto driver with whose auto I take has a data pack. And this is not some basic thing. They access movies, they watch movies, they're very up to date on this, more than me. One of them actually has just started banking transactions on this. Yeah. So that is the landscape predominantly. I'm not saying all people, and this is not statistically proven, I don't have that kind of data, but I'm saying from purely anecdotal observational evidence, I know that it's already happening. And I think it's for the government to just take on a little more proactive role. I think they're already on the way. If prices come down a little bit more, I think that's your solution. I don't see the need for an MNC to come in and put out these claims and say that this is going to be free and this is going to be basic. It's actually neither. Because by certain versions, and I've spoken to some digital experts on this, it doesn't give you access to many basic services that we would need, like banking. It doesn't give you access to a rediff or a travel portal, for instance. It doesn't. So my point is, I don't know why there is this whole garb of free and basic, and why we need to depend on a corporate entity to give us this, when I think we are very well on the road to getting it from the government already.
Right. Thanks.
Yeah, so I think net neutrality is a basic principle on which the internet is built, and I think it cannot be compromised. At the same time, we should look at free basics. I think the analogy I could give is a toll-free number, or you come from a postal understanding that where the bearer could pay, right? The person who's receiving the post would pay the charges, right? So basically, if that is the commercial understanding between the internet service provider and the content provider, that instead of a user paying for it, the content provider will pay, then it is fine. But what is becoming here, we are talking about zero rating platform. We're talking about actually there's going to be a lot of fear about throttling other applications. It might really impact innovation, and actually the internet being a I would say basic need, which is like transportation, communication, healthcare, and so on and so forth. Internet is going to really be the pipeline, or I would say the basic baseline for the growth of Indian economy. It is the intentions are not wrong. Theoretically, free basics does not have a big problem, but practically, with lack of moderation, without proper policies, without being moderated by the government, it might really end up resulting into colonization, imperialism, what Ganesh is talking about, where the certain few people are going to have access to the internet in a way they will manipulate, and it will lead to monopolization, it will lead to lack of innovation, and then ultimately the basic intent of connecting people will go away. So I would say that we are too early. India is not the country where the data packs are the costliest, and there are two parts of it. One is the infrastructure, and second is affordability. So I cannot use internet if there is no internet out there, right? So we talking about infrastructure first. Google is talking about the Loom project, where they're actually putting internet at the places where internet is not there. I think it's the need of the hour. Then making the internet free.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you. It looks ridiculous when you have an infant mortality rate I'm being very serious. Infant mortality rate is 34 per 1,000 live births. The highest in the world, the lowest in the world is Singapore, which is 1.25. I mean, we have bigger problems than free internet. I think the battle it's a very interesting battle between Facebook and Google to an extent. That's the crux of the matter. Google controls the internet today. Remember, the internet is manipulated to a great extent. Google owns search. Whatever you search for is controlled by Google. The keywords and the data is controlled by Google. Everything is controlled by Google. Google is the god right now, and Facebook wants to be the new god. And Facebook wants you to buy on Facebook, right? I think the basic problem with free basics, and it's not the first attempt. Airtel came with Airtel Zero, with Flipkart, got thrashed heavily, and then suddenly abandoned it. Flipkart has since then kept their mouths shut over anything, free basics or anything, right? They're just watching what's going to happen. I think if you let free basics in a country where people don't really understand the implications of what's happening, because you've received 14 lakh, TRI has received 14 lakh letters promoting free basic and only 21 against it. That's the extent of our knowledge in India. 14 lakh people have said TRI.
That's through the Facebook portal.
Yeah, but TRI has only received 21 letters, emails opposing free basics. We don't really understand what's going on, do we? I think the government of India is doing the right thing. Is doing the right thing by putting this on hold. TRI came out very strongly saying this is not some joke that you can run a poll on Facebook. This is not a platform. It's a product. It will be analyzed, understood, and I think government is doing the right thing, but not letting it run amok among users.
Great. Now, thanks for that. And thanks for bringing that the other company into the loop as well, because that's one angle which we often miss in the discussion. Which one is? None of them are. Okay. So I'm sure you can search this event on Google and Facebook, right? So and now we have to kind of take some audience questions on this. And before we do that, my 2 cents on that is that internet in the next 4 or 5 years will be a right. It has to be treated like a right. It's already happening. When you're talking about free Wi-Fi's in Connaught Place and in Lucknow, I see so much of you everywhere, right? In airports, internet itself as a whole will become free, or it should become free. It'll be like have a constitutional amendment now. Perhaps, yeah. So yes, so I think that's the way forward rather than trying to do that. But I want to ask the audience, I'm looking for somebody who kind of has a divergent opinion. It'll be wonderful. How many of you are for free basics? Bring it on. Okay, let's put it the other way around. Okay, one person. One person is for free basics, and we've got everybody, 2 people for free basics. Okay, how many for net neutrality? Okay, so we have 95, 99%. But we have a very courageous person, and I would love to hear. I'll talk to you. Now, is there some question which the audience has to the panelists on things which they've said, or something which you want to ask even beyond what they said? But let's try to pose this as it should be a question. It should not be your own version of an answer.
You look like a very
no, sometimes one has to tell it. Yeah. So yeah, we've got one here. Professor.
I'm Professor Shantanu, a biotechnologist and environmentalist. I'd like to ask Dr. Vikram, as you have said clearly that medical or the government is taking care of health issues and all, because we are speaking about Advantage India. Why not 3 issues? One is nimesulide, one is diclofenac and aspirin, which are a major health issues in rural India being taken care of.
So, one of the biggest challenges that India faces, and this is long before even we, did away with license Raj and we became a global economy, is we underestimate the power of some of these corporations. And unfortunately, in the healthcare industry, the biggest power lies with the pharmaceutical industry today. And it's purely on basis of their marketing power, the amount of margins they have, they've been able to get away with it. But I believe that these things are under consideration now. Both aspirin and nimelsolide should be banned long ago, should have been banned long ago. They haven't been banned. Most developed countries have banned them.
Even Bangladesh has banned them.
Even Bangladesh has banned them. So I think that's a very important point. Now, here is where a startup can add value. If you really want to tackle healthcare in India, why not do something in this space? There are enough generic drugs available. India has one of the cheapest drug rates, you know. A strip of Combi Flam is like 10 rupees or something. You won't find it cheaper than this anywhere in the world. Now, but at the same time, cheapness doesn't mean it has to come at the cost of someone's health. Now, as with the free basics issue, the awareness levels are very, very low. Nimelsolide became popular because it doesn't undergo first pass metabolism. That means it doesn't affect your stomach. You don't need to eat something and have it like a Combi Flam, otherwise it causes acidity. Nimelsolide doesn't do that. It was a very cheap alternative to a lot of rural Indians who don't have 3 square meals a day. So basically it addressed a problem. It created kidney issues along with it. Now this is where I want some entrepreneur to stand up. Unfortunately, if nobody stands up, then my dad will force me to stand up. But this is the areas where we can add value. And that's a very, very good point. And I think the government should do something. I'm sure I've read that there are already reports that government is looking into a lot of the regularization of the drugs. It's going to happen. Drug control in India is now one of the best in the world, but things are getting better. And hopefully under this new regime, I'm much more hopeful.
Yeah, but this nimelsolide discussion is like a decade old.
It's a decade old. It's very, very old.
Still going on. Yeah, any other question which you have, you can direct with the panelists. Anyone else wants to add something? Any questions you have? Okay, now any comments you have? Okay, great. So, any last words? Or anyone wants to say something before we conclude? For this panel, before we conclude, this panel.
No, I think India is, okay, I want to end with this. We have made it a habit of going and copying already established business models from the West. It don't work in India. We are the ones who created, epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata from scratch, right? We didn't copy that. I'm assuming we didn't copy that. I think we should form our own model. We have 1.2 billion Indians. We have some of the brightest and the smartest people in the world. I think we have to find a model that works for us and stop looking at Western models.
Absolutely. And just to now let me add to those final words in this thing, and just to pick up medicine and mixing your these two ideas of Professor Shantanu's question, yours. One of the things which we analyze in the book is the top 10 mortality diseases. Diseases which kill. And if you compare the high-income countries, the top 10, and you compare India, which is a lower middle-income country, the top 10, only 3 diseases are common. No, it's not. One is heart attack, the other is lung infection, and the third one is stroke. Our killers are diarrhea, which does not even feature in top 50 perhaps. Yeah, those kind of diseases, like infectious diseases, which kill in early stage, children, neonatal infections, infections during birth complications, all these things, which do not feature in the Western list. And the conclusion in the book, which in the healthcare chapter we come out with, is the entrepreneurs of India, or the government of India, we need origin, as you said, we need our own model, because the ones who are doing research and making those drugs and where the research laboratories are addressing their problems, their 10 diseases, which are Alzheimer and all those kind of diseases, which we are kind of not yet there. So much of our problems in our geo-context, in our socio-economic context, are unique to us. And our opportunities are unique to us as well. And may I add the aspect of energy into it. In the chapter on energy, Dr. Kalam was a great advocate of thorium, for example. India has world's 43% thorium. And the next is Australia in the list. If you take this is all in Kerala. Kerala mud houses are radioactive. And that there is an incidence of heightened cancer risk in Kerala mud houses. Do not get into them. And the energy in India's thorium, the 43% thorium of the world which we have, is equal to the entire energy of the oil and coal of the world put together. And that's our opportunity. And that's why the title was Advantage India, because India has its unique, so maybe it's unique advantages of India and unique challenges of India, and every entrepreneur has an opportunity to solve these challenges, and that's where Advantage India comes true. Thank you. So let me. So he's asking. Let me just tell for the people who not have heard. A good question is that why not thorium so far? So why is it that thorium has not happened? You have to go to the genesis of nuclear power. Nuclear power begins in 1944 with the bomb. In 1945, the bomb is used. Till 1954, nobody talks of peaceful uses of uranium power. It's only the bomb. So you can make a bomb only out of uranium. Second, thorium is a very Indian thing, you know, and the uranium, we don't have uranium. We have the world's 0.03% uranium, and we have the world's 40+% thorium. And the ones who were making the bombs were rich in uranium. So they had incentive to research on uranium. And of course, there was a war going around, and they anyways wanted to make a bomb. Out of that bomb, they said, why not make energy which we can use as well? And that's how in 1954, Russia, Soviets were the first one to do a peaceful usage of uranium power, and not the Americans. So the whole model, there were two things to it. One, they did not have the raw material. B, they never had the intent to begin with. Now, India has to do its own original research. In Bombay High, there's a small, very small, 500 kilowatt power plant which runs on thorium. Right now, it's very expensive. There are three extraction methods to extract, you know, from a fissile material, from fertile material to a fissile material, the cycle of thorium. There are three processes to do it. Once you make it a fertile material, then it can give you energy. Those three processes need far more research. We do not have a dedicated fund on thorium research. In our book, and Dr. Kalam always advocated that thorium is your next big thing. It's something which you should just like these guys got behind shale gas. We need to get behind thorium. 5-year mission, and let's have entrepreneurs also, research universities. You know, Professor Gowda was talking about we don't have original research and all that stuff. It's unapplicable, which is true, and hence we need to give our research laboratories, private or public, a simple task. And maybe even foreign countries can participate. Anybody is like a prize money. Find me a way to extract energy from thorium, and we will give you the patent on it for whatever years, and we'll help you generate, because you've got the thorium. So we're not doing that. That's where the problem is. We need to have a conviction that, you know, you've got it, you've got to extract out of it. Instead of running around the world looking for uranium, which you don't have, we should look at what we have. It's a typical story, you know, in Panchatantra, where the guy goes around looking for wealth, and the wealth was under his feet. Alchemist. Right? Okay. You want to add something?
No, I think.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
so
you.
I have the,
Go ahead, something.
what I hope is the last of the last words. Yeah, one more. Yeah, please.
Ayush out, it's a small hall.
Hi, hello, sir.
Hi.
Sir, my question is that in pharmaceutical industries, that's like medicine. Whenever we generate some medicine, then we have to take a approval from US FDA. So why should we not able to govern that type of generic medicine in India? So the process is getting easier.
No. If the medicine has to be exported to America, which is what most of our manufacturing is set up for, they have to be US FDA approved sites. And the similar thing is for Europe. They have some agency, which I think European Health Agency or something like that, and Ministry of Health Japan. These are the three major markets for drugs. And that's because a lot of these drugs, like he correctly said, are essentially prolonging your life. They deal with chronic diseases, you know, for hypertension, for stroke, for keeping out diabetes. And so if you want to export a drug to the US, you need to have a US FDA approved site. If your site is not US FDA approved, you can't export to the US. And I think considering the amount of malpractices and irregularities there are in Indian pharmaceutical industry as far as manufacturing is concerned, I think for now it is a good move till we tighten our belts ourselves. There is a lot of, I mean, it's not widespread, but there is a lot of irregularity happening. You know, there's no Six Sigma in health. You know, I can't accept one death among so many people. You know, it can work on mobile phones, but it doesn't work on health.
So the last words, yes. So I just want to go back to a point I made earlier. My request, my wish would be that there is positive action on 4-5 areas. You know, if this so-called disruption is not to be an ill-abused word, disruption, real disruption, innovation, etc. happens. One, at the societal, parental, family level. Encourage children to be entrepreneurial. Encourage them to grow up like that. Give them freedom. Let them take risks. Let them fall. Yeah, in a very metaphorical sense. Literally, though they fall. But otherwise, are we doing that at home? Are we incentivizing their behavior in a certain way right from the beginning? Number one. Number two is entrepreneurs themselves. Yes, I'd encourage more and more of them. In fact, most of the people I've profiled in my book are people like this, who push borders, gone into unusual industries, trying to do some work which is of real merit, impact on the ground. Number three is at the VC level, investor level. Please push the envelope. Please look, don't exhibit so much of herd mentality. A little bit of is okay, but can you also look at other parameters of evaluating enterprises? Can you really help them? Only then will you be able to nurture enterprises that do really different work. Fourth level is policy, government. We've spoken about that, which thankfully work has already started. The fifth is the media. I'd really, really wish more and more such stories of people who are really quietly doing some good work there, they get played up, yaar. That's not happening enough. The media is so powerful. You and I were talking about, the power of books, writing, social media, visual media, all of that. It's all there, but the media, unfortunately, is also blinkered. And I wish that would change.
Thanks. Thanks a lot. Thanks to the panelists. Thanks for the audience. We had a wonderful discussion. I'm sure we got great insights. Thanks a lot. We have lunch now?
Thank you, panelists and Srijan, for the gripping and educative discussion. May I call upon Mr. Prasanna Kumar, Chairman, Think Track, to present tokens of appreciation to the panelists and the moderator, please?